Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient is a 91 Mazda which we diagnosed a few days earlier, and we have the replacement cups that I got from Mauser. They actually were delivered around I think Wednesday or something like that. They're pretty good about delivery speed, but I didn't really have time to get to it. Last night, actually, my wife wanted to fix this one, but it was already like a pretty late hour, like 9 p.m. That's kind of my bedtime because I get up ridiculously early. So I figured, nah, let's save it for the morning. The repair itself is relatively simple. We just need to remove these two cups and put these two cups, ship it off to the customer, and hopefully that resolves the problem. And for that we're gonna use the desoldering Yihua 948 desoldering station. It's gonna take a second to heat up. So meanwhile, actually, the reason I'm making this video is not because you've never seen capacitors being replaced. It's because we finally came to, after long, almost 5 years, we came to the end with Sarah Boone's case. And yes, she has been, she is guilty. So now the only thing that we will be waiting for is going to be sentencing on the December 2nd, but that's less exciting to me. I was mainly interested whether her story or whether the jury would buy her story. And I know you can think that the case has been slam dunk from the very beginning, and yeah, I would say so too, but the jury only knows what the jury is allowed to know, right? So they don't know about anything other than what was presented during the trial. And there was like a lot of stuff missing from the trial, like her ex-husband didn't testify. The majority of George's family didn't testify. So they didn't paint the picture that we know, and that allowed the defense to paint a different picture, right? A battered spouse, a very sad situation, right? And the majority of the jury were women. I think there was only one man on the jury and the rest were women. And I was thinking, well, maybe women can relate to that and maybe they'll buy her story. And, as I said, it doesn't really matter how obvious the case is and how bad it looks, because it can always be painted by the defense in a favorable light. Just, look no further than the case of Casey Anthony, right? She walked, and there was overwhelming evidence of her guilt. She lied a lot throughout the entire process. She was very manipulative, much like Sarah, right? And she walked, right? Not guilty. Now, in this case, a lot of people suspected that the jury will find her guilty of a lesser charge. But no, they only needed, from what I heard, because it took less than 2 hours from the moment they left to the moment they came back. But meanwhile, they had dinner, right? So I hear, because I don't think any of the members of the jury spoke out yet, and maybe no one will. But it looks like they took less than an hour to come to a unanimous decision. That's kind of rare. I did not expect that. So let's review, or maybe do a little contemplation on how the defense how did the defense do, and the prosecution. And initially, especially during the trial, since a lot of those people were not called to the stand, and one of the YouTube lawyers, I mean the actual lawyers, but on YouTube, so it's not like they're YouTube lawyers, they're actual lawyers, right? They explained why that was the case. I had no idea how complex this problem is. But yeah, if they called Brian to the stand, then that would open the door for the defense to, make their arguments that otherwise they wouldn't be able to make, and maybe call other witnesses. But bottom line, very few witnesses were called. Very few witnesses from like the immediate environment of Sarah's or the George's family. So it looks like the prosecution really knew what they were doing, and they secured a conviction, they secured a guilty verdict. So looks like they do know what they are doing. Nice job. But the defense, what really bothered me about the defense was that they really wanted to beat this point to a pulp, that Sarah went to the second interrogation, or the first official interrogation, because previous was like an interview that we only have the audio of in the car. So this was the actual, proper interrogation in the interrogation room with audio and video, and they beat this point that she was not informed that she will be arrested, right? Because at that point they knew that they're gonna arrest her, because they found the evidence on the phone that contradicted her story significantly, and it was even. The opinion was expressed by, I think, some lawyers, that if she were honest from the very beginning, or her story was the same from the very beginning, they probably wouldn't have charged her with what they charged her with. They would have given her a lesser charge, right, initially. And then when they gave her a deal that she didn't take, and I'm kind of glad she didn't, but I truly believe that she believed that the jury is gonna stand on her side, and she's gonna be and she's gonna walk, basically, that she's gonna be not guilty or guilty of a lesser charge. But the prosecutor or DA gave her a deal, and I think that was a deal for a manslaughter, and 15 years or 16 years, something like that, out of which she already served like third of it, right? Because that already counts, that time she stayed in pre-trial detention. And who was it? Bruce Rivers did the calculation that the best case scenario, which probably wouldn't be in Sarah's case, because you would have to have like really outstanding behavior, and she's not that kind of person to score points in that department. She could have been out after 6 years, 6.5 years, something like that. So I say that was a good deal. And if she was a different kind of person, a little more easygoing person, maybe they would have negotiated with her more. So she rejected the first plea deal. Then even the James Owens also said that he expected that they would have negotiated more. So maybe give her even a lesser charge, or maybe 10 years instead of 15 or something like that, right? But no, they did not, and who can blame them? But that approach of the defense that, well, you knew you were gonna arrest her, and you didn't. Why didn't you tell her? Because maybe she would have came there to that interrogation with a lawyer, right? Which, yeah, I doubt that, because she thought she could just talk her way out of trouble. Because so far it worked for her. But I especially took offense to that defense because first let's establish that detectives in the interrogation, they are free to lie to you as long as they're not lying or promising you anything regarding the actual punishment, or any of these, to all of these questions, like how much am I gonna get? I don't know. It's not my department. I don't know. But if you confess, maybe you will get the better charge, or I don't know, some along those lines. So they're not allowed to lie about the actual punishment that she is facing. But other than that, they are free to lie to you, and it's very common that the cop will just tell you that, hey, we have all the evidence we need to convict you, right? So you may as well just confess, right? It's very common. But there was nothing like that in this one, and even Detective Chelsea, I don't remember her last name, was asked on the stand, have you lied to Sarah during the interrogation? To which she said, I don't recall. And I also don't recall any fancy tactics. Actually, if you just compare this interrogation to some other very skillful interrogators, like perhaps the one, what was his name? The Colonel, that was in Canada. Colonel, was it Williams? I don't remember, but it's very famous interrogation because he got played beautifully. So that was a skillful interrogation. So if you compare this interrogation to a very skillful one, then obviously you will find a lot of faults and stuff. But in this case, they didn't have to lie to her. They didn't have to even employ any manipulative tactics or anything like that, because they just played her video and, hey, you told us one story, now we have the video and it looks like it was something different, so what's the deal with that? And she just dug her own grave herself. No lying required. But compare that to all kinds of manipulative tactics that detectives can utilize, and really your defense is that they didn't tell Sarah that they were gonna arrest her. And even just thinking about it rationally, why would you even tell someone that, hey, come over to the station because we're gonna arrest you and you're gonna be charged and maybe go to jail or go to prison for the rest of your life, right? That kind of information might kind of cause you to, do something stupid, right? So by sharing that information with Sarah, potentially you're endangering people around Sarah, or you don't know what she would have done. I mean, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have done anything, but we don't know. So it's a very common thing that no, you don't tell the suspect that they're going to be arrested until you're actually ready to arrest it. It's a standard procedure. Every interrogation looks like that. That's how they train the interrogators. So them, putting that as a, hey, you guys weren't totally honest with Sarah. Well, she wasn't totally honest with the detectives either. So that was the one thing that I found odd, that come on, this is your defense or defense. That's how you're defending Sarah, that they didn't tell her that they were gonna arrest her. Come on. And yeah, I don't remember them lying or anything in the interrogation. They didn't have to. It was, with this amount of evidence, and Sarah being the person that she always wants to talk her way out of everything, she kept talking and talking and talking. Even I could have done that job, Even I could have performed that interrogation with Sarah and probably still secure a conviction, because then she herself just dug her grave, and that was kind of a, until that interrogation footage was presented to the jury, since they started with like some other stuff that I thought, like, where are you going with this, right? Until then, I was kind of worried that, this doesn't look too bad for Sarah. And I thought that maybe the interrogation footage will not be shown, but they already, when they were, deciding, or the judge was deciding what evidence is going to be shown to the jury and which one will not, they already had that discussion, and the conclusion was that no, this interrogation footage will make it to the trial and it will be presented to the jury. So we knew that it would be, right? But still, until that footage was shown, it seemed like, that Sarah has a chance, has a fighting chance. As soon as that footage was shown, I thought the jury already knew what kind of person Sarah is, and if one lies about one thing, then they're probably lying about everything, right? So it was very difficult to find her not guilty, in my opinion. So luckily that footage made it there. But the one exciting thing about this trial was, why we were waiting for it, was that we were gonna see the things or the evidence that we didn't see before. And I was very curious, what kind of evidence would that be, right? And is it going to be even needed? Because we did have interrogation, we had all the opinions of the other people describing her, being drunk in the morning, and by drunk I mean like really wasted in the morning, like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're wasted, falling over, it's. So what kind of evidence may they have? And I think the most crucial, even more than the interrogation footage, was were the text messages. We didn't have that, right, before. So this was new to us, the watchers, the spectators. This was completely new to us, and it was brutal. It was brutal because that's shown the side of Sarah that we didn't even have, and her controlling nature, like with that birth certificate that she tore, because just because your name is on the birth certificate doesn't make it yours. Like, oh my God. And that's her logic, right? What does make birth certificate mine? Not if there's my name on it. No, that's Sarah's birth certificate that has George's name on it. That's her logic. And yeah, and so the jury didn't hear the initial interviews before before the big interrogation, because that would definitely contradict even more, because she kept saying that she wanted George to talk to the family, and the only problem was that the family doesn't like her, but George chooses her over his family, and that's why this whole situation, right? That's why it's so difficult, right? But she's this good person and encouraging him to, yeah, go talk to your family, yeah, right? Don't just stay with me. No, it was the exact opposite. The exact opposite. But the jury did not hear that. The jury did not see this interview and those opinions of Sarah. Also, Sarah obviously took a stand and did what she does best. She heavily altered the whole story in her favor. And that's what she does. So I think that also had a relatively deciding factor on what on the jury's decision. And even when they were polling the jury, check out this moment because it was beautiful. Everybody answers relatively confidently, but the only guy that was on the jury, he almost screams that yes, it is my, because they keep asking like, is this your verdict? Is this your verdict? And they answer in the affirmative. And the guy like almost yelled yes, and yes it is, before they even finished the question. So he was like really keen on convicting her. Can you blame them? You know, they've seen through Sarah. And when the verdict was read, we had a good view of Sarah. And people say that she looked like she was about to cry. I don't see that myself, but maybe. But I do believe that she was surprised. I think that in her heart of hearts, she was convinced that she's not going to be convicted. That the jury is going to say, poor Sarah. Poor little Sarah. Yeah, you're not going to do it again, right? Okay, yeah, you go and rest. Continue collecting the alimony from your former husband, and just drink your life away. I do believe that this was her, but the question is you think she's now going to reflect on the situation and just find faults in her own behavior and try to be a better person? I really doubt that. She's way too deep into this narcissistic traits that nothing is ever my fault, the entire world is against me, and that is the problem, not me. I do everything. I excel at everything. I'm an outstanding mother to my son. And according to Brian, that's very far from the truth. But she believes that, right? I think she believes that. But you're saying that this brazenly to the detectives, that that's their job. They're fact finders, right? So whatever you tell them, they will confirm, they will check, they will get the second opinion and stuff. That's their job. So you know, lying to the detectives is the dumbest thing you can do. So I think, and she doesn't strike me as a dumb person, right? Maybe she's not super smart, but she's not dumb either. So I think it wasn't her rational decision thinking that, yeah, I will lie to the detectives and that will get me out of trouble. No, I think she actually believes that she's an outstanding mother to her son and a pillar of her community. That's why this was such a easy case to prosecute. But again, we didn't know. I mean, I was firmly expecting, actually, when they were polling on the stream that I was watching it, how long will the jury take to come up with the verdict? And there was like less than 2 hours, less than 6 hours, or we're not gonna know the verdict until Monday, because that was on Friday. I voted that we're not gonna know the verdict until Monday, because I thought that there's going to be some discussions. Typically, the jury has like 12 members, I think. And in this case, it was just 6, so it was small jury. So maybe that was a big factor as well. But I thought that it wouldn't be until Monday that they're going to spend some time deliberating and stuff. But no, they didn't need that time. They didn't need more than half an hour. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even need half an hour. I think there was just, you know, some procedures and, you know, some kind of overhead in the procedure. But as soon as they walked into that room, they already agreed. They didn't have to discuss anything. They all just agreed that, yeah, she's guilty. Now, the reason I thought it would take longer, because I thought they would be arguing regarding like whether it's the charge, whether she's guilty of the charge that the prosecution brought or a lesser charge, and maybe they would discuss that. But nope, not at all. She is guilty. Now, let's make some predictions. Now, obviously, I'm not a lawyer. Everything that I know about the law in the United States is from YouTube, from YouTube lawyers, and not only lawyers, because, you know, I'm kind of into true crime genre, so I don't only watch the channels that are run by lawyers. I also watch some that are like, you know, people just sharing their opinions, right? Not non-credential people. So that being said, obviously I don't know, right? But I'm gonna make a prediction because I can, because I can. I'm allowed, right? So my prediction, because now the what do you call it? The minimum that she needs to get is 22.5 years. Right? So now put that in the perspective of the deal that they gave her. 15 years. Was it 15 or 16 years? Something like that. So less than the minimum, right? And being charged with manslaughter. So she didn't take that, so now she's looking at the minimum 22.5, and the maximum is life. My prediction is, well, maybe not a prediction, because that would imply that I have any kind of knowledge, you know, of the law, that, you know, that it's an informed decision. No, I'm just shooting the duck. So my bet would be a 25 to life, meaning, you know, basically a life sentence with a possibility of parole after 25 years. It's kind of similar to what Danny Masterson's got, because everybody say that because he had what 30 years or 20 years, well, whatever he had, everybody's saying that, well, when he gets out, he's gonna be, pushing 70s, right? Because he was on that 70s show. So he's now gonna be pushing 70s when he gets out. But if he serves that minimum, it doesn't mean that he's gonna get out. He's eligible for parole, but it doesn't mean that he's gonna get his parole. All right, so he might stay there for the rest of his life. And the same here. So I would think that she will get about 25 to life, or maybe it's going to be 22 and a half to life. Who knows? But I'm thinking that there's going to be life in the sentence. That she's going to get minimum sentence to life. That is my bet. I will see on the December 2nd. I'm not gonna be waiting super, impatiently for that, because to me the case is done. What the sentencing, it doesn't really matter to me. I couldn't care less. I'm sure I will find out, because I am curious, but it's nothing than the plain curiosity, because I already invested so much into this case. By invested, I mean, I followed this case, and there was a lot to follow throughout the, her letter writing and all that stuff. So there was a lot of stuff to follow. But at this point, the case is done. Case is done. Sarah is guilty. I agree with the jury, and I'm glad she finally got what was coming. It's kind of too bad that it took so long, and it was not cool to me that they painted George as this abuser, or they kind of tarnished his reputation. And before sentencing, or before the verdict was in, the ex-wife of George's was interviewed, and the interviewer really clarified with her, like, has George ever been physically, because she said that they did have fights and stuff, but she wanted the clarification, that was he ever physical with you? The answer was no. And Sarah definitely was physical with her previous husband and with George. Right? She even went to jail one time, because both parties had injuries. Right? So it was a full-blown fight. It wasn't just that she was attacked by George. No, they were getting at it, going at it. Crazy. But yeah, that was the only thing that really bothered me, and that I understand that this is the only thing that the defense had to work with, so it's kind of natural, but the defense kind of volunteered to defend Sarah, so not great. I don't think that's a great image for the defense. But it's finally over. I'm glad that it's over. I'm also glad that she did not manipulate the jury to secure not guilty, or if she got a lesser charge, I wouldn't mind either. As long as as long as George gets the justice, right? Now I think there should be a documentary, or at least some kind of, report that would clear his name, right? Clarify that, all those things that Sarah said about him, like how horrible person he was, and that's why she had to suitcase him, was only in the effort of getting out of the prison sentence, or lessening the charge, or lessening the consequences of all that. But it wasn't accurate, right? I think that should happen, because the text messages show that very clearly, that George was more of a victim than Sarah, right? Sarah didn't seem to be a victim there. That is my personal opinion, but even based on the testimonies or opinions of his family, it's horrible that his reputation post-mortem needs to be tarnished this way. That's the saddest part of it, because no matter what Sarah gets as a punishment, that's not gonna bring back George. So the only thing that we can do is just remember him and clear his name, sort of speak. Well, it is over. I'm glad it is. Now we're gonna have to find another case to follow. But yeah. Alrighty, I think that'll do. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you. And I shall see you in the next one.